After you have opened your clay, you're ready to start pulling. Pulling means that you are going to be squeezing the clay from the base, moving your hand slowly upward as you're applying that pressure, and it's going to be moving the clay upwards. To pull, you want to slow the wheel down just a little bit. So I'm going to put my foot back on the foot pedal, and I'm just going to slow that down. You can hear the sound. Also tells you it's going a little bit slower. And then I'm going to take my sponge, and I'm going to add a little bit of water before I start pulling. And when I pull, this time my right hand or elbow is going to be braced against my thigh. I'm going to be putting my fingers on the outside just underneath this bunch of this clay right here. So grabbing all that clay from the bottom, right there against the bottom, and then my fingers on the inside are going to be pushing the clay outward, but they're not doing it evenly. They're actually offset like this. So as I come in, remember this arm is stiff, my wrist is not moving. Just connecting those two, grabbing the clay, and I'm just pushing. You don't want to use too much pressure. You're going to be sending this upward in at least 3 pulls. Just wiping off some of that extra clay, soaking up the extra moisture from the inside, and then adding it on the outside. Now sometimes people will actually pull with 3 fingers, or sometimes they pull with the sponge. So if you want to try pulling with the sponge, I'm going to do 1 pull where you can see the sponge is on the outside. I'm still grabbing, but the sponge is moist, so it'll add that extra moisture that I'll need. I'm grabbing the clay from the bottom, and I'm squeezing. Even pressure, lighten up a little bit as you get towards the rim, because we don't want that rim to get too thin. The thinner it gets, the weaker it gets. Again, I'm just going to compress that rim just a little bit to make sure it's nice, stays nice and strong. And then I'm going to sop up the clay from the water from the inside, so it doesn't sit in there and make it weak. So that was my second pull. I'm going to do 1 more pull to get the rest of that extra clay down here at the base to move it upward. Because if you look at the inside, the diameter of the bottom of the inside is smaller than the diameter of the walls I have on the outside. So I can see that I do have extra clay here that I can move up to increase the height of my cylinder. Just going to add a little bit more water. Make sure there's enough water on the outside. I think I'm going to slow my wheel down just a tiny bit more for this last pull. There we go. A little bit more water in my sponge. I'm going to grab the clay from the base. I'm going to squeeze. I'm going to push that clay upward. Ease up on the pressure as I move towards the top, because the top does not have as much there to work with, so I don't want to make that thinner. I can press the rim just a little bit. And let's cut this thing open and see what it looks like. So before I do, I'm going to trim off this extra clay here by taking my knife. This is a wooden knife. I'm going to push it in at a 45-degree angle, making sure that I can see where the inside is. This is going to save me time trimming later on. Take the needle tool, go right underneath. Stop the wheel head. Cut the ring off. Grab your wire cutters. Actually, I'm going to turn this on so I can show you how to remove this. So if I take my wire cutters while the wheel head is on slow speed, pull them tight, push your thumbs onto the bat, and then just kind of bring those wire cutters towards you. That will cut your cylinder off of the bat so that you can remove it. So if I were going to save this, then I could more easily lift that. But right now we're not saving cylinders, we're just checking to see what the walls look like. Okay, so you can see I did have some extra clay down here at the bottom. The base was good, so I have I had probably like 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch thickness. You can test that by going down with your needle tool. I can mark that with my finger. I'm going to pull that out, and that right there is somewhere between, that's about 1/2 inch of clay, which is good. You don't want more than that, because then you're wasting clay. But if you have less than that, chances are that when you are trimming, that you're going to be trimming a hole through the bottom of that. And then all the work that you went through just now is for nothing, because you just ruined your pot, your mug, your cylinder, whatever it's going to be.